Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to break down the NBA Draftkings slate on January 27th. Big 12-game slate, just too many games. 12 games is ridiculous, man. I honestly am not a huge fan of these massive slates. I like the 6 to 10. That's my favorite range. But we got to break down a 12-game slate today, so that is going to be a fun one. If you're new here, make sure to leave a like on this video and subscribe to this channel. It really helps me grow. If you also watch my college videos, I'm not going to be able to get out a college basketball video today because, well, I'm a college student and I have to actually get some schoolwork done today, so I'm just not going to be able to do that today. But if you do want to get the content for it, you can go always subscribe to my Patreon. I'll put the link down below. There's an NBA and a college basketball tier if you want the content for either of those. I'll put the link down below for that as well. But that's really all I got to say. Let's get into this video where we are going to start with the Charlotte Hornets versus the Indiana Pacers. This game has an implied total of 219.5. The Charlotte Hornets are slight favorites in this game. The Pacers are might be without Domantas Sabonis today. He is questionable. He left early in the last game the other day. We'll see if he plays. I don't think he's going to play because I don't think this is a much-needed game for the Pacers, and, I mean, he didn't return to the game, so that's never a great sign. So I don't think Sabonis is going to play today. If Sabonis is out, that's going to be great for Malcolm Brogdon and Miles Turner. They're both going to see a ton of increased usage, with Malcolm Brogdon having like about a 40% assist rate without Domantas Sabonis on the floor. That's going to be good. Miles Turner gets like a 23% usage rate without Sabonis on the floor, so both these guys are going to get nice little bumps. Brogdon's $8,600 and Turner's $7,500, and they're both in a pretty solid matchup against the Hornets, so that's going to be a good spot to target. And then on the Hornets side, Miles Bridges and Gordon Hayward are going to be the two guys I'm interested in. Miles Bridges has a nice point per minute. He's $4,200. I give him 25 minutes today, but he does have upside to get to like 30 minutes, so that's kind of what I like to get. He's only going to be a tournament play for me for sure. And then Gordon Hayward's a nice price of $7,500. I give him 38 minutes today. He has usage rate 26.1, and assist rate is 17.8, and a rebound rate of 8.1, so that's going to grade out pretty well for Gordon Hayward at $7,500. He just seems a little bit too cheap, so he's definitely someone I have some interest in. The next game we're going to talk about is the Cleveland Cavaliers versus the Detroit Pistons. This is going to be the lowest game total on the slate at 214.5. The pace is 103.5, which is not great. And I'm really only going to be interested in two players from this game, both in Cleveland. Isaac Okoro is the first one at $3,800. He's just playing so many minutes at that cheap of a price. Like, I mean, I know he sucks. He's going to still only be a tournament play, but only usage rate 12.3 and assist rate 6.8 isn't great, but he is still out there on the floor, so that's good. Larry Nance is questionable again for Cleveland. If he were to miss, I think I'd be interested in Jared Allen. Last game we saw him pick up 29 minutes without Larry Nance on the floor, and we know Jared Allen's a nice over 1 point per minute producer on the year. So at $5,300, it's going to be a really good value, especially against Detroit, who isn't really a great defensive team or anything. He's got a nice rebound rate of 15.2, so Jared Allen's going to look good. That's only going to be if Larry Nance is out, though. He's still only going to be a tournament play because he is going to come off the bench, and maybe they just get more minutes of Drummond, so we'll see what happens. But be paying attention to that one for Larry Nance, because then Jared Allen does become a very intriguing play for me today. Next game we're going to talk about is the Orlando Magic versus the Sacramento Kings. This game has an implied total of 220.5. Pace is 111. Pace is 103.35. The Magic have an implied total of 111. This is going to be another game I'm really just not that interested in. Total's kind of low. Pace is really slow. And there's no injuries, no big values to play out. So Cole Anthony's the only guy that looks kind of decent to me in this game. Pretty good to me in this game. He's $5,500. I gave him 31 minutes. He has a usage rate 22.1, assist rate 19.4, and a rebound rate of 9.2. And at $5,500, all those are going to grade out pretty well against the Sacramento team. Hasn't been great against in the backcourt defensively, and it's just his price tag just looks pretty good. There are some other guys on here that I think on these teams that I think are interesting that you could play in tournaments, but they're not on such a big slate. They don't feel like guys I really have to get to. Where I do like Cole Anthony a good bit. The next game we're going to talk about is probably going to be, especially my favorite team, the target is going to be Brooklyn. This game has Brooklyn versus Atlanta. This game has an implied total of 235.5. Brooklyn is favorites. This is going to be a really fast-paced game at 105.4, one of the fastest-paced games on the day. And I'm pretty much going to be interested in all five players on Brooklyn, 4 number starters. First one's going to be Jeff Green. He's $4,800. Played 34 minutes last game. I don't know if he's going to play exactly that, but he's probably going to play somewhere between 26 and 34. And upside at $4,800 against an Atlanta team who is not good defensively is going to look really good. Joe Harris is $5,700. I gave him 36 minutes. His usage is going down without all the new guys on his team, but he is still playing absolutely massive minutes. And at $5,700, if he can just hit a few more threes, he has an above average game from 3-point shooting. He's going to be a really good value. I will say though, on a big 12-game slate, he doesn't feel like a guy I need to get to at all, but he does project out pretty well and looks like a pretty good value. James Harden, Kyrie Irving, and Kevin Durant are all always going to be in play for me. Their usage rates are high, their assist rates are high. All of them are doing a ton. Kyrie Irving's still $8,800, which feels too cheap for Kyrie, but he is the one who's sacrificed probably the most on this team with James Harden coming to town. But all three of them are going to look good in here against Atlanta. I'm never going to tell you not to play these guys. They all look like great plays to me, and they're guys I'm going to be really interested in. And then the only guy I'm going to really like on Atlanta today is DeAndre Hunter. It's just all the guys in this team are priced up. Cam Reddish is out, Cam Reddish is questionable and he hasn't played like the last 4 games. So if Cam Reddish misses, DeAndre Hunter is going to get a nice little usage bump to about 23%. And that's going to be pretty good for his price tag at $6,500 in a fast-paced game. Just the Hawks don't look too great. They're all priced up a little bit. Trae Young's kind of been struggling. They're on a back-to-back too, so that's not always best, especially on a 12-game slate when you're looking at teams on a back-to-back. Maybe not as high on them as others, but DeAndre Hunter is the one guy that would stand out to me if Cam Reddish were to miss this game. Next game we're going to talk about is the Miami Heat versus the Denver Nuggets. This game has an implied total of 222.5, has a pace of 103.6, not a great pace game. I'm only going to be interested in 2 guys from the Heat, really nobody from the Denver Nuggets here. Although, Nikola Jokic is always in play like that. He's just someone who's always in play. If you want to get Jokic, it's fine. He's just not my favorite pay-up target today. But Duncan Robinson, Kendrick Nunn look good. Robinson's going to play he's 5,600. He's going to play 38 minutes. He has usage rate 16.1, assist rate 6.8. Isn't great. He's a 3-point shooter. We know what Duncan Robinson brings to the table. He's just out there so much, and we know if he just gets really hot on the floor, he's going to be a great play, great tournament option for me. Someone I definitely like to go to tournaments. And then Kendrick Nunn, Jimmy Butler is still out. Hero and Avery Bradley are questionable today, but I doubt they both play. And honestly, even especially if Hero's out, Kendrick Nunn's going to be a really good play again, I think, at $5,700. With all those guys off the floor, when he's out there, he has a usage rate of about 25%. He already has a high assist rate, 17.6%. And to be honest, Kendrick Nunn just needs to get more minutes anyway, and he's been playing really well in his absence. So I think he may have found himself a really good place in the rotation. Now, 35 minutes he probably won't see if those guys are back, but I do think he is here to stay. And Kendrick Nunn is a very good play if Hero is out today, I believe. The Lakers and the 76ers, this is going to be another game I'm just really not that high on today. 221.5 is the game total. It's just they're 2 of the best teams in the league, the Sixers and the Lakers, but they're just 2 great defensive teams. Like, these are 2 of the best defensive teams in the entire NBA. They're not fast-paced teams either, and all their guys are expensive, and the Lakers guys haven't always been playing a ton of minutes. And it's just a bad match for the Philly players. But KCP is the one guy on these teams I would be interested in today. He's $3,900, and he's going to play like 28 to 30 minutes. If this game ends up being really close, and he starts hitting threes, he could end up seeing like 36 minutes. That's the upside this guy has for his minutes total. And he's a great I want to say a great 3-point shooter, but when he gets going, he is a great 3-point shooter, and he's going to be someone that is going to be very valuable at $3,900. Just for the amount of minutes he plays, he does feel a little bit too cheap, but we'll see what happens here. I honestly, again, I don't think you need him on this slate because it's just massive, but he is a pretty solid value that probably nobody's going to play today. The Raptors and the Bucks is going to be another game that honestly I'm not really too excited on. The Bucks, Toronto defensively isn't what they used to be, but they're still solid. It's just going to be a slow-paced game, 104.15. The total's at 223.5. Just no one on the Bucks stands out for me. And on the Raptors, we have Pascal Siakam is questionable again. If he were to miss again, I expect Norman Powell to start and play about 38 minutes. And I think Norman Powell becomes a great value at $1,600 at that point. Now, if Norman Powell doesn't start, if Pascal Siakam is in, honestly, I'm interested in like nobody from this game. But Norman Powell would be the one, assuming Siakam is out. So be paying attention to that when we get closer to lock. Powell, when he's out there, is usage rate 22.7. That's pretty good at $6,100. The Bucks are they play faster, so this is going to be a pace-up spot for Toronto, so that's going to look good. But for the most part, I'm not really too interested in this game. All right, now we can start getting into games I like a little bit more, because I know a lot of those Eastern games kind of sucked. But we're going to start the Celtics and the Spurs. This game has an implied total of 225. It's going to be a slower-paced game at 103.5, but we do have Jason Tatum as being back right now. So that's going to, kind of kill the super high usage rate we had for Jaylen Brown earlier in the year, but they still both have a pretty high usage rate. Brown, Tatum, Walker are going to be the main usage guys on this team. Brown's at $8,300, gave him 36 minutes. Tatum's $8,700, gave him 36 minutes. They both look good. And then Kemba Walker's $6,300. His minutes limit looked pretty. He's been seeing his minutes increase every game, so I think he's going to get 30 today. And if you give Kemba Walker 30 minutes, he's going to be a really good value with 31.7 usage rate and 32.4 assist rate. Now, I would note that Jason Tatum and Kemba Walker have not played a game yet together this year, so we don't know what Kemba Walker's usage and Jason Tatum's usage is honestly going to be with them on the floor together, so we will have to find out and see. So I will say that does limit Kemba Walker a little bit for me. Like, he's looking right now like one of my best values, but I think overall we just have to, pay attention to what we think is really going to happen here. I think he's good. I think he's a good play. I don't think he's a great play, but I do think Kemba Walker is a good play. On the other side of this game, we have the Spurs. DeMar DeRozan and DeJounte Murray are going to be the two guys I'm interested in here. DeRozan $7,100, Murray $6,600. I gave Murray 34 minutes, DeRozan 33. DeJounte has a 22.3 usage rate, DeRozan has a 24.2. DeRozan 29.8 assist rate, Murray 26.4. Murray has an 11.8 rebound rate too, which is pretty good. So both of them look like pretty solid plays here against in a good matchup against Boston. Just going to look like guys that are probably going to go overlooked on today's slate that I think have upside. Now we're going to go to the Pelicans versus the Washington Wizards. The Pelicans are going to be my favorite team to target today. The Wizards just defensively are horrible, and they play at a fast pace. It's going to be a huge pace-up spot for New Orleans here. New Orleans does play at a pretty slow pace. This game is going to be paced at 105.4, which is tied for the second highest paced game on the slate. Total is 227.5, which is the second highest total on the slate. So all that looks really, really good. So all these Pelicans players are going to grade out pretty well for me. Lonzo Ball's $5,600. I gave him 30 minutes, 20.1 usage rate, 21.4 assist rate. That's going to look great. Eric Bledsoe's $5,800. I gave him 34 minutes. He has a usage rate of 20.1 and assist rate 18.4. That's going to look good. Josh Hart's $4,500. I gave him 29 minutes. Now his usage rate isn't as high at 11.1. He's going to come off the bench, but at $4,500 playing that amount of minutes off the bench, no one's really going to get to him. And his rebound rate's been high, which is surprising at 14.9. So he looks pretty solid. And then, of course, Brandon Ingram and Zion Williamson are going to look great here. Ingram's 8,000, Zion 7,800. I have Ingram for 37 minutes. He has a usage rate of 28.3 and an assist rate of 22. Zion Williamson has a 28 assist rate, 28 usage rate, only a 10.1 assist rate, but a rebound rate of 13 is going to look good for Zion. Both these guys look really good. I mean, Washington, they play really fast, so that's always good. It's the same as last year. I love targeting the Wizards. They're bad defensively anyway, so I like targeting the Wizards. But now they don't have anybody. The whole roster is still probably going to be out. Thomas Bryant's out for a year, but Denny Avdija, Davis Bertans, all these guys are out. It's just Russ and Ingram and then a bunch of scrubs. So that's going to make these guys they're not going to have a tough defensive matchup to go up against. So Ingram and Zion do look like two, honestly, of my favorite plays overall on the slate. There's a reason Brandon Ingram's on the cover of this video, so he looks really good for me. But so does Zion as well. And then Bradley Beal on the other side. I mean, he's just had in the 2 games back since the COVID thing with this rotation running out. Bradley Beal has had a usage rate of average usage rate of 44.9, which is ridiculous, and it's going to be the highest usage rate in the league today. So I think that's a good spot to target. He's 10,200. He's expensive, but you have to go there. And then there's also a chance I wouldn't be surprised if Russell Westbrook doesn't play today because we've seen him on a limits minute or minutes. What did I say? Limits minute. We've seen him on a minutes limit the last 2 games at 25 minutes, but this is a back-to-back now, and Russell Westbrook doesn't always play back-to-backs, and if he's a little banged up, I wouldn't be surprised to see him miss today. So then Bradley Beal, he's the only player on that team. He might shoot the ball 50 times tonight. So at that point, Bradley Beal becomes the best pay-up option, in my opinion, today, just because his usage rate could get to 60%. It could get to Harden levels from last year without Westbrook on the floor, so Bradley Beal will become an elite play. So be paying attention to that one. I mean, Russell Westbrook technically isn't listed as questionable right now, but I do think there's potential for him to miss this game, so be paying attention to everything that's going on today at this game. Next game we're going to talk about is Phoenix and Oklahoma City. I also really like the Phoenix Suns today for a few reasons. One, the total's not that high, 220.5, and it's not a super fast-paced game at 103.15, but Devin Booker's out for Phoenix, and that's just going to open up a ton of usage and minutes for other players. So I'm expecting the starting 5 to be Chris Paul, Mikal Bridges, Jay Crowder, Cameron Johnson, and DeAndre Ayton. And I'm going to like all 5 of those guys. I think all 5 of them look good. Bridges is $5,300. I give him 31 minutes. He gets a nice little usage bump without Devin Booker on the floor. That's going to be really nice. Jay Crowder steps into the starting lineup and at $4,900, so he's going to play 33 minutes again. That's going to be a pretty solid value for me. Cameron Johnson at $4,800. He gets the biggest usage bump out of these 3 when stepping on the floor. I gave him only 28 minutes today, but he has a usage rate of 23.3 without Booker, so that's going to be the highest out of those 3 guys. And at $4,800, I'd rather pay for that higher usage rate than 3 more minutes. I think he can get a little bit more done. Then DeAndre Ayton is $7,300. He gets about a 4% usage bump without Devin Booker on the floor. I gave him 33 minutes. He has a rebound rate of 21.4 as well. And Oklahoma City really doesn't have any big defensive centers. Look, Al Horford's questionable today. He may not play, but even if he plays, that's fine. I'm not worried about that against Ayton. Actually, Horford's a good defender, but he's just not. Ayton's big. I'm still not too worried about that. But then, especially if Horford doesn't play, you get an undersized center in Isaiah Roby. I'm cool with that for sure against DeAndre, and that looks really good. And then Chris Paul gets the biggest usage bump. He gets about a 5% usage bump without Devin Booker on the floor. And then he gets an assist rate of 49 without Devin Booker on the floor. So Chris Paul is going to look really good at $7,600. I gave him 36 minutes too. He's going to look great. So Chris Paul looks like one of my favorite plays overall on the slate. Now we're going to go to the Utah Jazz versus the Dallas Mavericks. We have Mike Conley and Rudy Gobert. This game has an implied total of 225. And the Jazz have, I think, the highest implied team total overall on the slate, 114.4. Yep, they do. Here against Dallas. The game is going to be really slow paced, though, at 102.25. So that is something to note because Utah just plays so slow. But Mike Conley, Rudy Gobert is still going to look good. Conley, $6,100. I gave him 33 minutes today. He has a usage rate of 22.8 and assist rate of 29.9, which those are just pretty good rates for $6,100 here against Dallas, who's really not that great defensively, especially in the backcourt. So Mike Conley is definitely going to be someone I like. And then Rudy Gobert is just a little too cheap, I think, at $7,200. Gave him 33 minutes. He has a usage rate of 16.7, which isn't great, but a 23.6 rebound rate, which is great. So Rudy Gobert and Mike Conley are going to be two guys I'm interested from that team. And then we go down to Dallas. The Dallas side where we got Jalen Brunson. He's $4,700. I gave him 30 minutes today. He has a usage rate of 20.6 and assist rate 23.4. Ever since he's been in the starting lineup, he's been very productive. And at $4,700, he still looks like a good value. Luka's Luka. Like, I don't think I need to say anything anymore. Like, every time you're making lineups, if you can fit Luka Doncic in your lineup, play Luka Doncic. That's just kind of my rule with him. I mean, every once in a while he looks like an even better play, but I don't think Luka is ever a bad play unless we're starting to see him get to like 12K, like we've seen Harden in the past. But we're not right now. 10,900, he's fine. So Luka's great as always. Tim Hardaway Jr. is $5,800. I gave him 37 minutes. He has a usage rate of 22.5. He just hasn't been hitting his threes. Like, he's just been inconsistent with his threes. But if he starts hitting them, I mean, he's shooting them still, then he's going to be a great play. So I always like to target the guys with the high ceiling, even if their floor could be very, very low. And they could have a bad game, and if they've been playing kind of bad. But, like, I mean, they're NBA players. They're going to turn around at some point. So why not tonight? The last game is going to be Minnesota versus Golden State. This is not a game I'm too interested in, even though the pace is going to be very nice. But it's just Minnesota, man, I hate this team. Like, I really hate the Timberwolves right now. They're awful. Like, how much of a death sentence is it to get drafted to Minnesota at this point? Like, they are the worst franchise in the NBA, and I thought that was the Knicks or the Hornets, but no, it's Minnesota, man. I mean, they just get talent and talent and talent, and they still suck. So I don't know. Anyway, but the reason I don't like them for DFS is because they just spread out their minutes so much. D'Angelo Russell is questionable again. We'll see if he doesn't play. If D'Angelo Russell does not play, I do like Anthony Edwards. He's $4,500. He gets a nice usage bump without Russell on the floor. That's what I like the most about him. He's going to play about 27 to 30 minutes. That's going to be really good. If Russell plays, I'm not interested in anybody from this team. I just don't want to deal with this crap, especially on a 12-game slate where you have so many guys with guaranteed minutes. I don't want to play spread out minutes. And then Draymond Green looks good at $5,300. He's just too cheap. Give him 32 minutes. He has a usage rate of only 12.6, but an assist rate of 32.6. That's going to be something to target. Now, if everyone's playing Draymond Green again, I'm going to just get off him because I know his floor's so low. Which everyone's been playing Draymond Green the last 2 weeks, and he still sucked. I guess everyone's thinking eventually he's going to hit, and probably he will eventually hit. And, if everyone keeps playing him, I won't do well that night. But I'm willing to live with that. Yeah, that's really all I got to say on this video. Thank you guys so much for checking this out. Be sure to leave a like and subscribe on this channel. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and let's make some money tonight.